Welcome back everyone. We are now going to jump into a hands-on demonstration of working with Azure Private DNS Zones on Azure. Before we jump in, let's quickly review the steps we are going to take. We're going to start off by creating an Azure Private DNS Zone. This is going to be within our Azure Playgrounds environment, so I encourage you to follow along. After we create our Azure Private DNS Zone, we are going to link a virtual network with some virtual machines inside of that network to our private DNS zone. Now, this virtual network and virtual machines are going to be created in advance, and we have also provided a script that you can run to go ahead and pre-build this environment as well. And we are going to go through the steps of setting up that script, since this is the first demonstration using scripts in this course, which we are going to use in other demonstrations for the course as well. After we link our virtual network to our private zone, we are then going to view the results of auto-registration of private DNS entries, which is going to include additions, changes, and removing virtual machines automatically updated in our zone as well. And then finally, we are going to create a manual DNS record and view the results of overriding the existing automatically registered record when it comes to making changes to the resources that correlate with that manual record. With that, let's jump over to our Azure Playgrounds and get started. Okay, we are now in our Azure Playgrounds environment. Before I jump into the demonstration itself, I wanted to take a moment to talk about the scripts that we have made available for you to use if you're working in the Azure Playgrounds environments that will easily and quickly build out some of the environments we're going to jump into for various demonstrations. We're not going to go through this script setup in every lesson. However, since this is our first lesson using these scripts, I want to take a quick moment to go ahead and address it. So for this course, we have a GitHub that we have created, which we are currently building out as we speak, which provide scripts for different sections that will automatically build out the environments so you can just go ahead and jump straight into the relevant part of our demonstrations. Specifically, these scripts are using AZ-CLI commands wrapped up in a PowerShell file, which will need to be run in the PowerShell Azure Cloud Shell environment. To view the script we are using now, we are going to build out a virtual network using AZ-CLI commands, and within that virtual network, create 2 individual virtual machines. We are also including text files which give you the copy and paste commands which will directly download and run that file. So for this demonstration, we have this commands.txt file, and it is essentially copying and pasting 2 lines. One is downloading the script by using a curl command to download the raw GitHub user content, and then simply running the script, which will be saved as setup.ps1. We are also going to include these text files attached to each individual lesson, so you can go to your lesson resources and copy and paste to go ahead and build out the scripts as well. And we are also going to attach the GitHub link to this lesson resources too, which we are going to refer to throughout the rest of this course. With that, let's go ahead and move on and build out our environment and focus on private DNS zones. Let's go ahead and build out our environment first. Since we are already in our GitHub, let's go ahead and copy and paste these 2 lines to go ahead and download and run our script. I'll go ahead and click on the 3 here, copy the line, paste it into PowerShell, and then we'll go back to our text file, copy that line, and then run setup.ps1. Again, we're not going to go through the script build out in every demo lesson, just wanted to cover it for this one. Also, quick note, these are designed to work specifically with our Azure Playgrounds environments, which have a single resource group, in which the script will find our single resource group and assign variables to it. If you're working with your own Azure tenant, keep in mind you will need to change some of the variable assignments, especially if you have more than one resource group. With that, our script's already run. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, grab me a quick drink, and in about a minute, we will have a virtual network with 2 virtual machines, and we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, after about a minute, we have our virtual network and 2 virtual machines up and running. Very good. Let's now move on to the demonstration. So we're going to start this demonstration off by first creating an Azure Private DNS Zone. Easiest way to do so, once again, go to our top window and we'll just type in Private DNS. And we have Azure Private DNS Zones right here. The setup process is fairly straightforward. We'll go ahead and create a new private DNS zone. We'll go ahead and attach it to our resource group. Again, keep in mind that these DNS zones are globally scoped, so we do not need to assign it to a specific region. And then next, we need to give our DNS zone a name. And to stay consistent with our theme, I'm going to go ahead and call it controlaltsuites.com for a private DNS name. Notice it is assigned to a resource group location of East US, again though the zone itself is globally based. We'll go ahead and go to Review and Create. And we'll go ahead and create our private DNS zone, and that will complete here in just a moment. Okay, after about 30 seconds, our private DNS zone is complete. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at it. We'll click on Go to Resource, and we are in our private DNS zone of controlaltsuites.com. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in just a little bit. That's a lot better there. At the moment, we do not have any DNS records populated. Technically, we could go ahead and create a record now if we wanted to, such as an A record. However, the easier method, and the one that we are going to demonstrate, is we are going to link a virtual network to our private DNS zone and have it automatically create records with the resources that are already there. To do that, we need to link our virtual network, which from the left side underneath Settings, click on Virtual Network Links, and we'll go ahead and click to add a new one. We can call our link whatever we want. I'm just going to call it VNet Link. And then we need to choose a virtual network to link to. In our case, we'll go to our subscription, go to our virtual network dropdown, and we have our Cake Hub VNet 1, which was created with our script, and go ahead and click on that. And we do want to enable auto registration so we can automatically have new records created on our behalf. Turn that on, and then click on OK. Now, in my experience, this link will take about a minute to complete, so I will once again go ahead and pause the video and come back when it's ready. Okay, and after about a minute of waiting, our virtual network link is now complete. Link status is now showing as completed. And what's really interesting is within our private zone, if we go back to Overview, we have two new A records automatically created for us, which correlate with VM1 and VM2, which exists in our pre-created virtual network. And notice these are A records with the private IP address of 10.01.4 and .5 respectively. And we can confirm those are the correct IP addresses by, I'm just going to open up a new tab and go ahead and view our virtual machines to go ahead and confirm it. We'll click on Virtual Machines here, and we have VM1 and VM2. If we click on VM1, that'll have a .4 private IP address, which we can see right here in the bottom right. And if we go to VM2, we have .5 as well. Very good. So at this point, after linking a virtual network with auto registration enabled, the private DNS zone then automatically registered the existing resources already in that network with A records that matched up with this private IP address. Next, as a test to view auto registration in action, I'm going to go ahead and quickly create a new virtual machine to see if it automatically picks it up. To do so, I'll go ahead and create a new one. And I'm going to go ahead and just quickly create one. The individual specs and operating system do not matter as long as it is linked to our virtual network. We'll just call it VM3. Assign it to our resource group. All of our defaults here are fine. Ubuntu server is good. And we are going to go ahead and download our SSH key just so we can create our machine. Let's go to networking. And it is attached to our Cake Hub VNet. Very good. After validation, let's go ahead and create our virtual machine. Now again, this will take about a moment to complete. I'm going to go ahead and click on Create, wait about a minute. And after about a minute or so, we should have a new A record automatically added for VM3. I will once again go ahead and pause and come back in a moment. Okay, and after about a minute or so of waiting, our virtual machine of VM3 is now created. And if we now go back to our private zone, we have a VM3 A record automatically created for us as well. Very good. Now what about deletions? If we remove a virtual machine, does it automatically remove that virtual machine record as well? Well, let's find out. We'll go back to our second tab, go back to virtual machines. This time I'm going to remove VM2. And we'll go ahead and delete it. Type in yes to confirm deletion. And then hit delete. And once again, I'll go ahead and wait about a minute and we'll see what automatically happens. Okay, after waiting for our VM2 to be deleted, let's go back to our private DNS zone, hit the refresh button, and not surprisingly, our VM2 entry has now been automatically removed. By this point, you should be noticing a trend in which when auto registration is enabled, which we can confirm on the right side, whenever you create, change, or remove a machine, that A record is automatically updated as well. What happens though if we create a manual entry that overwrites or conflicts with one of our automatic entries? Now, if you were paying attention in the previous lesson, you should know what happens. However, let's go ahead and find out. I'm going to go ahead and create a new manual record, and I'm going to give it the A record name of VM-3, which matches VM-3 here. Actually, to start, before I do that, let's go with VM2. And since our VM2 record no longer exists, we're not getting any conflicts there. However, if I change it to VM3, notice I get an orange pop-up that there is already an auto-registered record with the same name. If I create this new one, it's going to override or replace the automatic one. For this example, I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to give it a different IP address of 10.0.17, which is incorrect, but I want to type in something different just so we can see what happens. Let's go 10.0.17, and then I will click OK. Almost immediately, we have our new record created of VM3 with an incorrect address of 10.0.17, and we can also see that auto registration is now set to false. That previous auto registration record no longer exists because we have overwritten it with a manual record. So then, now that we have a manual record and not an automatic record of VM3, what's going to happen if we change or delete our virtual machine 3? Well, let's go ahead and find out. Let's go back to our virtual machines, and I'm going to go ahead and delete VM3. Yes to confirm, and then hit delete. This will once again take a moment to remove. I'm going to go ahead and pause and come back one more time. And we are back again. Our virtual machine 3 has been deleted, and if we go back to our private DNS zone and refresh, that VM3 record still remains because, again, it is a manual record. It's not going to go away on its own. We are fully in charge of updating the correct IP address and removing it once that virtual machine has been removed. Now, there is a lot more we could go into in private DNS that is outside the scope of this lesson and really this course. However, the main takeaway I wanted to focus on is the relationship between automatic and manual entries, in which any conflicting manual record will overwrite the automatic record, and those manual records will not be updated or removed automatically. Again, you are fully in charge of them. With that, that's going to conclude our demonstration of working with Azure Private DNS Zones. Let's quickly review our main takeaways before we move on. Wrapping up our hands-on demonstration of working with private DNS zones. We first went through the process of creating a private DNS zone, in which we simply created the zone itself, which is a fairly straightforward process. We then linked or connected our virtual network to that private zone with auto registration enabled, which automatically created a number of automatically recognized A records on our behalf. Again, these records were automatically created and automatically updated and removed if we updated and removed our virtual machines as well. And then finally, we viewed what happens when we overwrote auto registration with manual entries in which they did not automatically update on our behalf. That's going to go ahead and wrap up this lesson. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one.